Hello and good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Can you please confirm? Thank you.
Yes.
So, I am Asmita, Chief Strategic Programs of Jamshedpur Management Association, and I welcome you all on behalf of JMA. Thank you all for joining us today for this enriching live series session. We are here today to understand the wonders of Jigsaw. As children, we all have handled or played with jigsaw puzzles as toys. But as we grew up, we started believing this is something for kids. But studies have shown that jigsaw puzzles help improve visual, spatial reasoning, short term memory, and problem solving skills, as well as combat cognitive decline, which can reduce the risk of developing serious diseases like dementia. To understand what are its health benefits and how can jigsaw help in emotional well being, we are joined by our expert today, Ms. Geetika Dubey. Geetika is a medtech enthusiast who wants to make healthcare affordable and to take healthcare and preventive healthcare in every corner of India. She is the founder of two startups, Rapturous and Nisara. Rapturous intends to take scientific and yet simple approach for mind health. The intent is to reduce the pace of cognitive aging and to carve a niche for brain gymming activity. Nisara is a startup that is working in the spectrum of low-cost nutrition for masses to address malnutrition in India. Prior to this, she was working as a research scientist in Department of Medical Devices at NIPER, National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research. She enjoys traveling, reading books, especially science fiction, journals, and academic books, and has recently developed interest in Ashtanga yoga and horse riding. Welcome, Geetika. We are very excited to have you on JMA Forum. Request you to please take the session forward.
Thank you so much, Asmita. Thank you so much for those lovely introduction. Not taking much of your time because I realize it's evening and it's the starting of the holiday week. So I'll just get right to the presentation. Just give me a second. I'll share the screen. One second. Is it visible?
Yes.
All right. All right. So, welcome. As Asmita mentioned, that we all have done jigsaw puzzles as kids, but we have not thought of taking it up as an adult. Very oddly and very strangely, you will find this as a sporting event in the West. With India, we do not, we have not yet started picking up jigsaw puzzle for an active engagement for that matter. So today I'm going to introduce you to jigsawing for adults. Why should we do it, and what are the health benefits of doing jigsaw? Uh, this is a synopsis. This is how the presentation will go on. I'll give you the concept. What is jigsawing and why are we doing it? What does jigsaw do to your brain? How is it a part of preventive healthcare? Hypothesis, basically what is happening when you're doing while you're solving a jigsaw puzzle. How does it act as a de-stressor? We'll look a little bit on literature, the published work, and how does jigsaw puzzle help in reducing the pace of cognitive aging. We will understand each of these aspects as in how we go in the presentation, and then eventually at the end we can have a question answer sessions where you can shoot me with questions. All right, so I assume everybody knows what's a jigsaw puzzle. Just to show you, I have a couple of puzzles from my brand. These are the puzzle pieces, and this is one entire puzzle. Is it visible? Okay, so we have been actively taking care of our body. There is a plethora of data surrounding how to keep physically fit, but we seldom talk about mental fitness. And before I get into the concept of jigsawing, what intrigued me into getting into this was uh, the mental health of masses. How do we empower each individual to take care of their own health, mental health? Because going to a therapist, going to a professional is not feasible for everybody. And India is a very large country where having access to so many psychologists or psychiatrists for that matter is not a very it's not a very feasible outcome. I don't think we'll ever be able to bridge in the gap between the required number of therapists and the required, the number of people visiting the therapist. So what intrigued me was this demographic dividend is eventually going to get demographic dependent at the same time. We are all going to get old at the same time. We are all old at the same time. Now, when it comes to physical, taking care of the physical health or taking care of any sort of physical ailment, there are multiple, SOPs that are available in the market, or you can, use robots, or you can use AI to take care of an individual suffering from physical ailment. What about mental ailment? What about an individual who has an onset of dementia, or is into Parkinson's, or is, showing early signs of Alzheimer's? So how are we going to take care of an individual with that spectrum, and all of us are almost reaching about in the same spectrum, because we're all old? So this was a point that intrigued me, and I started looking up at methods that can be used to take care of our mental health. So what are jigsaw puzzles? They are pieces that you piece in together to form a large image. It can be an image, it can be a color amalgamation, it can be a pattern, it can be an artwork, it can be a memory, it can be anything, it can be your customized puzzle, whatever. The brain uses up to 70% of your entire energy needed by an individual. Now, we all know this, but do we pay 70% of our attention to the brain? No, we are paying 70% of the attention to the physical parts, to how we look, how much are we in shape, whether our jawline is visible or not. What about the gray matter that's not visible? Who's going to take care of that? So apart from jigsaw puzzling, brain food, brain exercises are very, very important. Again, jigsaw puzzle, it was intriguing because it is beyond age. People from any age group can solve this, whether they are old, whether they are beyond 60, whether they are in our age bracket. It's beyond age. It's for everybody. Now, how is it a part of preventive healthcare? See, once there is an onset of some sort of cognitive disorder, by cognitive disorders, I mean, you begin to forget things. In a very simple language, it's very easy for us and for our parents to say that, oh, hum to 60 saal ke ho gaye, and we have the right to forget. No, you do not have the right to forget just because you've touched 60. You're forgetting things because you're not taking, or you've not taken adequate care of your brain. So as far as India is concerned, we also need to break that myth that 60 and 60 beyond, you're aging and you're supposed to forget things. You cannot. So for that, we have to start taking care from much before. Now, since our parents, most of our parents will be reaching around 60 and beyond 60, for them it can be a start for puzzling if there is no onset, or if there is no visible onset of any kind of cognitive decline. For youngsters, it can be a preventive measure. It can be a tool, or it can be an equipment that you can use so that you pace away or push away your cognitive aging. The forgetfulness that we think is very normal can be pushed away to the end of our lives, probably 80, 85, 90. It does not have to strike at 60. It triggers memory. Memory in the sense, for example, one of the puzzles that I was looking at was a very nicely crafted Diwali puzzle, and there were so many common things in there that all of us would associate with. Apart from diyas and apart from the lighting and stuff, there were so many things that would trigger a line of memory for us. So it's a small, it's a 1 feet by 1 feet puzzle which is triggering a memory for you. You go all the way down to your memory lane and you retrieve that memory, and then you start talking about it. Then there's a flood of thoughts that come to your mind, and then you start sharing and talking about it, that as kids this is what we used to do, as when we were small, mothers used to do this, fathers used to do this, etc., etc. So it triggers your memory. So it's basically sharpening the center of the brain that is responsible for memory. Brain training. Now, the more you solve the jigsaw puzzle, the more deeper are your neural pathways, the more connected are your neural pathways. Now, what are neural pathways? Basically, this is a connection between neurons to neurons. Neurons are the cells of your brain. So connection between one neuron to another neuron. It's a mode of transmission of a thought, of a sensation, of a concept from one neuron to another neuron. So this pathway is basically a neural pathway. So for a neural pathway to become deeper and stronger, it has to be utilized more and more and more. So this is how you're basically training your brain, by ensuring that you're deepening the neural pathways. Then it can be used as a family time entertainment. This we will see eventually how are we using it as family time, how are jigsaw puzzles used as family time. Then, as I mentioned, deeper neural pathways, coordination and movement. Again, I will be sharing a published paper on coordination and movement. And of course, it is relaxing and therapeutic. I'm not sure if any one of you have done a jigsaw puzzle in recent times, but it is very relaxing and it is very, very therapeutic. All right. So what happens when you're jigsawing? What happens? What exactly is happening when you're picking up a jigsaw? Out of the entire chaos or the pile of the unconnected pieces, your eye begins to look in for pieces and begins to select patterns from the chaos. There's so much of chaos within the pieces that you want to structure it now to make an entire image. For that, your eyes begin to scan. It begins to recognize patterns, it begins to recognize lines, it begins to recognize colors, difference in colors. So basically, this is developing your visual perception. Now, to show you this puzzle, these are the two pieces of the puzzle. So there can be there'll be another piece almost similar looking that will fit in here, but it may not be right because you also have to orient the lines. I don't know, is it visible? Can you see the pieces in my hand?
Geetika, it's not clear to me. Can anybody else confirm, please?
No,
No,
Geetika,
it's
it's
not
not
No.
very
clear.
clear. Not
Yeah,
very
the
clear.
video
Okay.
is little distorted. We can't even see you also.
Not clear, ma'am.
Can you see the presentation?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much
yeah,
clear.
yeah.
Okay, that's clear. Okay, it's just with the okay, at the end of the presentation, probably I'll show you the pieces so that you know once I'm done with the presentation. Okay,
Oh.
so yeah, so visual perception. So when you're trying to organize this, you're basically identifying more than one things at the same time. You're looking at the color, you're looking at the lines, the patterns, you're trying to connect the lines from one piece to another piece. So you are taking a lot of sensations inside your through your eye socket at the same time, right? This is the first thing that's happening. Then cognitive flexibility. See, again, there's a pile of chaotic pieces on your table and you want to organize them. Now your brain begins to work. It is strategizing. What do I segregate it based on colors, on the shapes, on the basis of line. So every puzzle has a different strategy. For the puzzles that I'll show you at the end, for one of these puzzles, it's color. Basically, it's a distinct, you can figure out this is purple color, this is blue color, this is yellow color, and you will segregate based on that. Then there are other kinds of puzzle that will have line orientation. Then there'll be different shapes. So you will try segregating based on the shapes. So in this, what you're doing is, or you will employ more than one strategy at the same time. I also want to sort it out based on colors. I also want to sort it out based on the shapes. So this is how you're developing your cognitive flexibility. You're using all the lobes of your brain to segregate, to identify the lines. The part of your brain that is identifying the line, the part of the brain that is identifying the shape, and the part of the brain that is identifying the color are different. These are three different parts of the brain. That is why jigsawing becomes a more holistic kind of approach for your brain exercise, because it is engaging more than one part of your brain at any given time. And while you're doing an entire puzzle, it engages all the parts of your brain. Then what happens is there's something called as perceptual reasoning. Now integrating different perceptual information to develop strategies. Now once you start I always keep saying this, that in the beginning, when your pieces are on the table, you will not know where to start, and randomly you'll just start, and then eventually the more you start doing it, the more you are into that puzzle, the image will start appearing to you. So looking at a piece, you will know where it will go. So basically, this is storing in your head. So your brain is reasoning out to you that this is a piece that will go somewhere in the center. So once you reach the center, you can get back to this piece. So for now, you can keep it on the side, or you will attach it to another piece that will also go in the center and keep both the pieces on the side. So this is how you're developing your perceptual reasoning. Now, constructional praxis, basically integrating visual and motor information. What it means is, after you recognize the piece of the puzzle that this is going to go at this position, it is your hand that goes and picks that up and places it in that location that you've identified to be the right location for that piece to assemble at. So you're basically using your fine motor skills also. You're developing your fine motor skills, because identifying the piece, rotating the piece, in which angle is it going to fit, or which direction is it going to fit, because it's only a few pieces that will have distinct corner, straight line corners, that you will know that these pieces will go to the corner. Other pieces will not have a corner or a straight line, so you will have to identify in which direction will the piece fit into the adjacent piece. So you're again developing the lobes of the brain that are responsible for constructional praxis. Then, as I said, mental rotation. You have to rotate. You have to identify what is the orientation, in which direction will this piece fit in. Visual scanning. Basically, visual scanning is when you're differentiating based on colors. Like you can see in this little video, that all the same colors are being assembled or connected at the same place, while the different colors, you see all the blues in one line, all the greens in one line, and all the pinks in one line. So this is a very simple description of what happens when you're visually scanning it, but it is not as simple as this. Basically, when the colors are very subtle, the colors are almost same, then the neurons, the center of your brain where the differentiating neurons sit, they start to fire more, because they want to recognize it very correctly, that whether this is pink or whether this is light pink, whether this is a straight line or whether this is a curved line. For example, there can be different points of identification in different puzzles. So this is just an example that I'm giving you. Then okay, very interestingly, it works on your long-term and on your short-term memory. So while you're solving a puzzle, you will remember that this is a piece that can fit in here. But when you come back to the puzzle again after a while, if it's a large size puzzle and you're unable to finish it in one sitting, when you come back to the puzzle, somehow you will remember to locate that one particular piece that should fit in that position, or to fit in that correct place. So this is a data that you retrieve from your long-term memory. You might, you might come back to that puzzle after a week or after 10 days. But it is very surprising that despite of you not trying to learn, nobody is trying to sit and learn the, jigsaw pieces, that this has straight lines, so this should come here and I should be keeping it here. This is this in color, I should memorize it. No, we are not trying to memorize it. We are trying to enjoy the process. But with jigsaw, it is so subtle that your brain picks up that little differentiating factor, and it stores in your brain, and it retrieves it effectively when you want it to be retrieved. When you're looking for that exact one piece, you will know you've placed it on the top right corner of your table, and that is where you'll start looking at for, and that is from where you will pick up that piece. So it's very interesting how jigsaw puzzles stimulate and sharpen your short-term and your long-term memory. So this is basically what is happening while you're doing jigsaw. So this is a gist. So with this, I think all of you must have understood that all the lobes of your brain are actively engaged while solving a puzzle, despite of you not trying to engage it. So this is the beauty of solving a jigsaw puzzle, that you're not trying to use your brain. You're not trying to use your analytical portion of the brain. You're just enjoying the process. And in that process, all the neurons, all the lobes are being fired. All right. So jigsaw hypothesis. So basically, before I get on to the hypothesis, I would like to clear this up, that till now, jigsaw has been used as a learning tool, as a tool for entertainment, but it's only been last 3 or 4 years that they have started using this as a therapeutic tool for cognitive disorder, for motor disabilities, or for depression and anxiety. So the data that is available is not very long or not very old. It's just from 2017 and 18 onwards, and none of this data is quantified. As in, they know that it is helping. They know that there is change, but they have not been able to quantify it because the research has not been directed in quantification so far. So hopefully we will be able to quantify it probably by the next year or by the end of next year. That how much exactly is jigsawing helping your brain. So that is why I call it as a hypothesis. But if any one of you is sitting with a jigsaw and solving a jigsaw, you will know that it's not rocket science. This is what is actually happening. You are engaging your motor neurons. You are engaging your memory. You are engaging your differentiating neurons. You are deepening your neural pathways. So this is happening. This is for sure happening. But quantification is not available, and hence I call it as a hypothesis. Basically, what you're doing is you're finding a piece from the entire chaotic pile. Now, each time you find a piece, your brain triggers the release of dopamine because you're happy. Oh, wow, I found this piece. It's a kind of a small sense of, eureka, that, oh, I have found this piece. The piece that correctly fits into this position. Now, dopamine flows. Now, eventually, the more pieces you attach correctly, the more dopamine is flowing. The more and more dopamine is flowing, what happens? Your brain moves from beta state, that is your wakeful, active state, to alpha state, that is deeply relaxed and still a very, very alert and focused state. So, so this is basically a state where you can actively do a lot of work without being stressed. So again, this is a way of training your brain. So the more you do jigsaw puzzle, the more you know what triggers or what helps you in releasing the dopamine in your brain, and eventually then it leads to you learning how to shift your beta state into alpha state whenever you need it. Beta and alpha waves are basically your brain waves. Now, lowers your stress and improves your mood. Now, jigsaw hypothesis is basically uh, idea is to cut down your stressor, right? So with this, what happens is once once your brain is reaching into alpha state, this begins to lowers down your stress, and it improves your mood. So the more it release in dopamine, the more elevated your mood is, and eventually when you start assembling the pieces, and when the structure begins to come in, or when the structure begins to just give me a second, just give me a second. Samne. I'm so sorry for the interruption. Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry for the interruption. Okay. So while you're assembling, and once you finish the, when you finish the entire image, or when you've assembled the entire puzzle, it releases endorphins in your brain, which is your happy hormones. So it's such a little sense of accomplishment where once you start, you know you will finish it. You know it's a task that you will take to an end, whether it takes a day, whether it takes 2 days, or whether it takes a month. So the release of endorphins, the release of dopamine, shifting from from beta state to alpha state, the training of your brain, these are all things that are going to happen once you pick up a jigsaw puzzle. So this is how basically stress is cut down while you're solving a jigsaw puzzle. Then, okay, with the release of dopamine neurotransmitters, your brain moves from moves to alpha state, wherein you begin to breathe slowly and deeply. Again, the more engaged or the longer you're sitting with the puzzle, the longer you're taking to find the appropriate pieces, the longer you're taking to find the appropriate pattern, which will emerge to you the more you look at it. You eventually set into a very semi-meditative state. You don't have to sit and actively meditate. It just takes you into a very meditative state where you begin to breathe very slowly and deeply. So this is again a way of distracting yourself.
दिमाग को कैसे थोड़ा ठीक रखा जाए?
सही क्लास ले रहे हैं, आप सो भी रहे हैं।
Okay.
अब आपके यहाँ से नवीन कहाँ चले गया?
अरे इनका बहुत लोग गया है भाई अभी
Okay,
नवीन
excuse me,
मैसेज
please
किया है
turn off your mic.
इमरजेंसी प्रिपेयर्डनेस सही करना
Yeah, somebody's mic is
कहाँ चली गया
on.
नवीन?
सब स्पेशल
Uday.
प्लीज टर्न ऑफ द माइक
Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So, okay. Okay, now basically what is happening, how is jigsawing helping as a de-stressor? Basically, most of the times I call jigsaw as a tool that has got attention deficit disorder, because it is a demanding kind of tool. It is a demanding exercise where you will automatically be engaged into it. So once you're into a jigsaw puzzle, once you're starting, or once you've opened a pile of unconnected pieces on your table, the stressor, or the point that is creating anxiety, the point that is creating stress in your head, will break away. You're not actively breaking away, but because the jigsaw is demanding enough, you will stop thinking about it. You will cut down your stressor and you will focus exclusively on the image at hand, or on the puzzle at hand. So excuse me. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to disengage to unwind, and you're not doing it on purpose. It's just happening. It's an outcome of solving a jigsaw puzzle. Now, see, what when we are designing a puzzle, we make sure of the kind of image that we are taking. We make sure of the kind of colors that we are putting in. So there are happy colors, that are colors that will ignite your mood to a different level. There are colors that will break down the subtle monotony probably that you're going through in the entire day. So once you're trying to select a puzzle for your day, you have to analyze what kind of mood you are in, or what is it that you're looking for. Is it for just an engaging activity, or you are going through a phase where you want to cut down your stressor and disengage and unwind? Then you can probably pick up a little more complicated imagery, where you're even more engaged into solving that puzzle. Disengaging, then you regain the vigor, rejuvenate your mind, and then you have a better cognitive reception, better memory, better focus, better controlled breathing. Basically, it's all in all a very holistic approach for de-stressing. Then, as I mentioned, it's a two-part occurrence. One, it is giving you a breather. That means you're cutting off. You're not thinking about the stress. You're not actively thinking about the stress. And the second, it acts as a mood enhancement. So this is how it's a two-pronged approach that Jigsaw uses on us. We do not use it while solving a jigsaw, but Jigsaw is using on us. It is distracting you or disengaging you from your stressor, and it is enhancing your mood. So this is what is basically happening while you're solving a jigsaw puzzle. Now again, as I mentioned this before, that it creates the connection between the left and the right part of your brain. The logical left part of your brain. See, all of us are basically in India, we are mostly right-handed people. So right-handed people, because for some reason we are discouraged to use our left hand. So right-handed activation, that means our left brain is more activated, right? And our right brain is less used, because we are not ambidextrous in nature in India. So with your left brain, the logical left brain looks into individual parts. Now it is a sequential, rational, analytical, for your analytical portion of your life. You're basically engaging the left portion of your brain. Now, to engage the right side of your brain also, it requires you to get into either creative space, or to start any sort of creative activity, which I am not very sure if everybody is into doing any sort of creative space. However, with jigsawing, since you're using both your hands, since you're using all the lobes of your brain, the connection between the left brain and the right brain eventually happens on its own. The more you start using your left hand, the more you start using the creative side of your brain to identify the alignment of the line, to identify the orientation of the line. The more you're doing that, the more you're activating the right side of your brain, and the more deeper is your connection between the left and the right side of your brain. So this is again, acting as a fuel for your brain. It is firing up the neurons. It is oxygenating your brain. It is oxygenating even the pathways of your brain. So this is a very subtle activity that happens while you're solving a jigsaw puzzle. Now, what happens when there are deeper connections? Basically, they enhance your ability to learn, understand, and remember things. Now, dopamine, as we saw earlier, that once you're solving the jigsaw puzzle, and every time you place a piece correctly, there is a release of dopamine. Now, dopamine plays a very important role in memory and motor control. So memory, we have figured out how. Motor control is basically, it is by connecting two different lobes of your brain with the deeper neural pathways. So what is motor control? So you have a better control of the movement of your hands, of your legs, of your limbic system, basically. So, okay. Then let's look at a research paper. Now, again, we are still in a very nascent stage of research. So I will present two of my research studies, but this is a puzzle. This is a paper published in 2018 by Patrick and Fissler. Jigsaw puzzle taps into multiple cognitive abilities, and it is a potential protective factor for cognitive aging. Now, what did they do is they asked 100 people to volunteer, and they gave them jigsaw puzzle for 30 days. So they had two groups. They divided the 100 people into two groups. One group was given jigsaw puzzle and counseling, and the other group was only given counseling without jigsaw puzzle. And all these individuals were above 50 years of age. The only mandate that they had was to solve jigsaw puzzle at least 1 hour per day, every day, to dedicate 1 hour of their day into solving a jigsaw puzzle of their choice, whichever and however big they wanted. But they had to sit with the puzzle for an hour. So they, by the end of 30 days, they could find, and these were all healthy individuals above 50 years of age, but they had no cognitive disability. They were all very mind active people. So at the end of the research, they figured out that there is a correlation between dose dependent relationship between the change in global visuospatial cognition. What does this mean basically? So the more the individual solved the jigsaw puzzle, the better is the visuospatial cognition, the better is the reception, and the better is the memory function. Now, the other group that was just having counseling did not have as much betterment in the global visuospatial cognition as the group that was also jigsawing. However, since it was just 30 days and the maximum puzzle size was 500 pieces, they also concluded that it is not a one-time event. It should be a lifestyle change. So before you actually begin to see any kind of clinically cognitive changes or clinically cognitive gains, you will have to assemble at least 9,100 pieces. What does this mean is you have to be consistent with solving the jigsaw puzzle. If not 1 hour every day, at least 30 minutes of jigsawing every day will really do wonders for your brain. So in total, when you have managed to assemble 9,100 pieces of jigsaw puzzle pieces, not the puzzles, not 9,100 puzzles, but 9,100 pieces in total of all the jigsaw puzzles that you solve. So that's when you begin to see a cognitive change. That's when you will, if you're above 50, you will begin to, recognize that I am not forgetting things. I know where I've kept my keys. I know where I've kept my phone. I know where I've kept my papers, whatever. So you will have to be patient. It is not an overnight change. It's a long process. Then this is just another very, very interesting paper where jigsaw puzzle improved fine motor abilities of upper extremities in post-stroke ischemic clients. This was published in 2017 by Kushnato and all. What did they do was they also divided people into two groups. One who would just receive medicine after ischemic stroke, and the other group was receiving medicine and was given a jigsaw puzzle every day, was given at least 1 hour of jigsawing every day. So by the end of a month's time, what they figured out was the group that was doing jigsaw puzzle had a much better range of motion, much better muscle strength, and much better upper extremities, the fine motor movement of the upper extremities. So what happens in stroke is basically the paralysis sets in post stroke. So most of the time the paralysis is reversible. It depends on individual to individual, and it takes from somewhere from 1 week to about a year or 2 years, or sometimes 10 years to reverse back the damage that was done by stroke. But in this case, they were able to accelerate the process of post-stroke recovery just by giving the individual a decent size, easy to do jigsaw puzzle. Now, as I mentioned, it increased muscle strength, range of motion of the upper extremity, and all these sort of things in this paper. So this was a very fascinating paper for me, and this was the paper that basically got me into doing this work, that we can use this. And it is, again, if you really understand how your brain functions, and if you really know what is happening while solving a jigsaw, it's not very difficult to connect that this would be a very obvious outcome. Because your brain is registering a piece. It is trying to move your hand to pick up that piece and to assemble into that place. So you may, the individual who's into the recovery stage after stroke may not be able to deliberately pick up that piece, but the brain is trying. The brain is sending signals. So the more signals it sends, the more it is firing the neurons, and the faster is the healing. So, okay. Now, how does jigsaw puzzle help in cognitive aging? So, what is cognitive aging? As I said, we are all going to get old, and we're all going to get old at the same time. So, the concept of forgetting things, the concept of saying that we are 60 and we can forget things, is really not a real concept. You cannot, I mean, it's not age dependent. You cannot be 60 and just say that because I'm 60, I am forgetting things. I'm getting old, so I'm forgetting things. No, because if you have to begin to pay adequate attention to the part of your brain, to the part of your body that is taking the entire load of your existence. You know, it is taking 70% of the energy. It is taking a lot of food. It is taking everything, and it is responsible for every other function. I mean, this is screwed up everything else. No matter how well functional it is, the life does not remain the same anymore. So jigsaw puzzle act as a point of breaker for the stressor. Now what happens is in a stress, when you are in a persistent stress, now it's very easy to say you do not stress, you should not stress, stress is not good for health. But we are living in the times where stress is very inevitable. It will be there, and we really cannot get rid of stress. So cause is going to be there always. Now, how do we cut down the cause? How do we break away from the cause? No, we cannot. Stress is going to be there. It's a part and parcel of 21st century. But we can equip ourselves to, not have the diminishing effects of this stressor. Stress. What happens with stress? It does not. It's not like you've fallen down and you bleed and you put a medicine and it goes off. With stress, what happens is that it starts creating astral bodies, and the more the stress, the more astral bodies it creates, and the more it begins to form plaque in your brain. So plaques are basically responsible for onset of dementia, for Alzheimer's, and the likes of neurocognitive disorders. So what to do when there is a stressor? You just pick up a jigsaw, you just sit with the jigsaw, and you disengage with the stressor. You disengage the point where it is hitting your brain, and your brain surrenders and starts producing astral bodies. Okay, that begins to float in your brain, and then they start clogging your different parts of the brain. So break away from the stressor. Now jigsaw puzzles gives interstitial breathing space. So every time there is a stress that you cannot avoid, it will be there. You sit with a jigsaw, it is giving you breathing space, it is giving you a time to disengage with it. Then it is the once you start doing it, it is also improving your dexterity. As I mentioned, that it is forming deeper connections. We have a dominant hand and we have a not so dominant hand in India. I mean, dominant hand and non-dominant hand is all across the globe. We are more prone to using one hand, but for most Indians, it is the right hand that is dominating, and hence our analytical brains function very well, and our creative side of the brain are not that active because we're not using effectively both the sides of our brain and body both. So this is basically when you're solving a jigsaw puzzle, you're involving the left side of your brain also. I mean, the right side of your brain also, the left part of your body also. So this is again breaking the the trigger that is going to lead to the formation of astral bodies or the astral cells that eventually lead to the formation of the plug. Then okay, now as we've been repeating this again and again, that it is engaging all the brain lobes. You're engaging all the brain lobes. Now I keep getting questioned that I do solve Sudoku puzzles. So why should I do jigsaw? So with Sudoku, it is numbers. Everybody is not very comfortable with numbers, and even if you're comfortable with numbers, you're only using one section of your brain. That is your analytical portion of the brain that identifies the number, that does the addition and subtraction, and that helps you placing another number over there. You're not engaging all the parts of your brain. Right. So that is how jigsaw becomes very beautiful, because it is engaging all the parts of your brain. So okay, then if there is somebody, or if you have a grandparent at home, or if you have aging parents, and if you give them a customized photo puzzle of your childhood or your kids' childhood, it triggers a happy memory for them. It puts them into a trail of happy thoughts, one after the other and after the other, and they begin to share stories related to that happy memory. So it's just one little memory, and that triggers all the happy hormones, triggers dopamine, triggers endorphins, and takes the individual into a very, very relaxed state. Now, as I said again, it fuels confidence. The moment you finish a jigsaw puzzle, you begin to feel that you've done something, you've finished something, you've started a task, you've taken it to the end, and it fuels your confidence. So on any day, on any given day, if you're feeling low, and if you you think that in a negative trail of thoughts, you can pick up a jigsaw, and by the end of it, I'm very sure you'll feel confident, because you've accomplished something by the end of the jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so very interestingly, when I started the project, when I started this work, a parent came to me, and she was struggling with her 14-year-old suffering from digital addiction. The kid knew that he wants to get rid of the digital addiction, but he was unable to do it, because he was so sharp in his head that for him to leave online gaming was a very, very difficult task. They had gone to all sorts of therapists in Mumbai. They had taken all sorts of medication, all of it, and he could not get rid of his addiction. So we just with no experience at all, we just asked him to solve jigsaw puzzle every day, at least for 30 minutes. So he started doing that, and at the end of 1.5 months, his mother came to us stating that his digital time has reduced to 1/10. He barely sits for 15 to 20 minutes, and by the end of two months and 10 days, he was completely off his digital addiction. So this case was very, very surprising for us, because they had been to all sorts of therapists, and the kid and the family, they were both struggling for a year, and just 2 months of jigsawing, and the kid was off his digital addiction. The other case that came to us was of a severe depression and severe anxiety disorder. So this individual, before any sort of presentation or before any sort of important D-Day, would get into a cycle of anxiety and depression. And anxiety and depression, they basically end up fueling each other, and there would be no real cause of anxiety and depression. Probably it was low self-esteem, because they had got everything checked before. They got all the hormone levels checked, they went to the therapist and everything checked, but tangibly they could not point out that this is the reason for depression, or this is the reason for anxiety. So we gave him puzzles to solve. We ended up giving him very, very large puzzles to solve. I mean, our largest size puzzles and our very difficult puzzles. So on day 2, he called up and he said that, what nonsense have you given? How am I supposed to, instead of de-stressing me, this is going to stress me more. This is stressing out more. So it was a take back for us. But that was a point when I realized that since he was not a pro puzzler, it's a new thing for him. We should have started with smaller puzzles. Then I had to dispatch him smaller puzzles, and that's how he started. And then by the end of 3 months, he ended up finishing the bigger puzzles also that we had sent him. And every time before his important day, he would spend 30 minutes, with jigsaw puzzles in the morning and or evening, whenever he had his important meeting schedule or important social interaction schedule. He would just sit and do, and the anxiety would disappear, and there was no trigger for depression again. So these two were very interesting cases for us, and that is how we've now started taking up more cases who recognize their issue and want a tool to treat themselves. We are not going into diagnosis and stuff. People who have diagnosed themselves or who recognize their inner core, or who've gone to a therapist to get themselves diagnosed, we only have started taking up some of those cases like that, because we are also learning. So okay, so when you are selecting a jigsaw, when you're choosing a jigsaw for yourself, you have to take few things into consideration. Not just with that example of the second case study that I gave you. Even when I picked up my first puzzle, I ordered it online, and I ended up ordering a large 1,000-piece puzzle. And once I got it, I was hell bent on finishing it in one sitting, and I was 8 hours into it, and I could not even manage to finish 1/10 of the puzzle, and then I gave up on it. That this is not my ability, and probably I'm not somebody who can do puzzles. But eventually I realized it's something that you have to take it slow, because I am not trained to solve a puzzle. I have to train my brain to solve the puzzle. So I have to take smaller puzzles. I do not have to keep an unrealistic deadline, solving 1,000-piece puzzle in one sitting. I don't have to do all of that, because outrightly I'm not going for speed jigsawing competition. This is a part of therapy for me, so I should take it as a therapy. You don't sit for 10 hours with a psychologist and think that, oh, I'm done and I'm fine with it. So it's a process. So that's a realization that came to me with my own personal experience. So when you're considering or when you're buying a jigsaw, age is a very important factor. So if somebody is 50 and above the age of 50, you do not buy pieces that are very small. You buy pieces that are large, because since they are not into puzzling, they are picking up jigsaw puzzles for the first time in their life, or probably for the second or the third time. So they should be able to easily identify the pieces. See, there's a very thin line where puzzling can become agitating for you. Now, again, there are brands of puzzles that are available in the market that are good. The image is good, but once you get the printed version, once you get the version of it, the print quality is very bad. So once you sit and solve those puzzles, because the red on the left and the red on the right looks the same, it begins to fuel anxiety rather than fueling up calmness. But if there's a nicely printed good quality puzzle, then it will do what jigsaw puzzles intend to do. Now again, you have to consider the age of the individual who's going to solve the puzzle. Have you puzzled before, or if you're totally new to this? Then also, if you're going to do it alone, or if you're going to do it as a group event with your family, with your friends, with your siblings, whatever. And how much space can you dedicate for the puzzle? This is one of the drawbacks of the puzzle, that you will have to dedicate a space. If you're into smaller puzzles, then you'll have to dedicate a smaller space. Smaller puzzles, you can probably finish it in 1 or 2 sitting. The larger puzzles, 1,000-piece and more, or probably 500 pieces and more also, it takes time. It takes time for you to finish. So you're not going to finish it in one sitting. You have to keep coming back to it again and again. And for as long as your puzzle is spread, you will be unable to use that place. You will be unable to clean that place, because the moment somebody starts cleaning it and the pieces are moved from here and there, you will not like it. So this is one drawback with the puzzle, that you will really have to dedicate a place. So that is, I've started also advocating the concept of puzzle libraries, where you can store a number of puzzles, and you have a dedicated space. A group of people can come up with something like this, and then you keep going to that place and solving it, so that you do not have to do it in your house. We spoke about stroke rehabilitation therapy. We spoke about de-addiction therapy. Early stage neurocognitive disorders I've already explained, and early stage motor dysfunction management also I've already explained. Now this is basically, for me, puzzle is not just joining pieces, it's a part of holistic therapy. So the feel of the puzzle, the texture of the puzzle, the colors of the puzzle, they're all very important aspect while you're joining a puzzle, or when you're designing a puzzle, or when you're picking up a puzzle. So, okay, as I mentioned, it is a lifestyle change. It cannot be done once. It is used, or it can be used to treat lifestyle disorders, because it's all in your head. So once your head is functioning fine, then everything else will function fine in your life. Blood pressure management. Okay, this is very interesting. It acts as a breather for long studying exams. So if there's somebody, if you know of, who's preparing for IIT or medical entrance exams and is studying for like 10 or 12 hours a day, you can definitely gift them, or you can suggest them to pick up jigsawing as an breather in the middle of the study, which is a very engaging, subtly engaging kind of an activity. Then, of course, for entertainment, friends, sibling time, for aging parents, grandparents, we've already spoken about this. So this was our first puzzle that we had designed. So basically, for all, we are all siblings sitting in this, siblings and older people sitting in this video. So we had an event last year where a common event where we all attended a wedding, and the wedding was in June, and we created a collage of the wedding images, and we created a large size puzzle for the New Year Eve. So on the 31st night, after wishing Happy New Year to each other, we just opened the 864 pieces puzzle, and we are all sitting there. So it was such a rundown memory lane. We remembered even the smallest of the smallest happy moments that we had in the cousin's wedding. So we had a lovely time. We were about 8 or 10 of us who sat for straight 12 or 14 hours, and we managed to finish the puzzle. So it's not a very nice image. So we finished the puzzle, and since we wanted to hang it as a wall hanging, we also attached it with a magnetic bead so that we could hang it on the wall. So yeah, so to summarize, 9,100 pieces, it's a process. It will not be an overnight change. It's a lifestyle change. A lifestyle change that is much more than just doing an activity. It will penetrate into every segment of your life. Happy mood, de-stressed mood, elevated headspace basically penetrates into every section of your day. Again, as I mentioned, it is to be done over a period of time, and 30 minutes of jigsawing every day will help or prevent cognitive aging, or will push cognitive aging towards the end or the later end of your life. So yeah, that's it. So any questions?
Yes, so the floor is open for questions now. Please feel free. Yes, Sunita ma'am has raised her hand. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Has she written a question? No, not yet. So, okay. So by the time she is asking question, I'll show you the pieces. So these are larger pieces. Is this visible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are larger pieces meant for people who are, old, or I wouldn't say old, people who are not into puzzling and above 50 and 55 years of age, and they're just beginning to puzzle. So once they are into this, then they can get into smaller pieces. So I think last time it was not visible. So this is, I don't know. So this is another puzzle, which is a very colorful image, and it has smaller pieces. So this also took me fairly decent time to finish. This took me about 2 hours to finish this puzzle. So everybody has a different time and space graph to, finish a jigsaw puzzle. Yeah. So questions, or has everybody understood everything?
Ananya, do you have a question?
Yeah, it was a interesting sessions. So, do you segregate this as per the age group, or it is like open for all?
See, my only criteria is 15 and above. I'm not making jigsaw puzzles for kids because there's already too much available in the market, and it's a different ball game to design it for kids. For adults,
Yeah.
the only distinction that I have put on my website is being a pro puzzler or being a new puzzler. So if you are a pro puzzler, you do not select a design that has a large patch of same image. मतलब you do not select, if you're new to it, you do not start with landscape जहाँ पे पूरा का पूरा portion blue है, this is also blue, this is also blue, this is also, don't start with that. You start with something simpler and smaller. So once you start getting the hang of it, you can keep upgrading yourself. For adults, I would always recommend larger piece size so that it's not anxiety for them. It can be designed, and again, for adults above 50, 55, I would suggest that if they are beginning, they should begin with a photo puzzle, something in their memory, something that would trigger with their grandson, with their grandchildren, with their children, whatever, some very enticing memory triggering image. So then they get interested into the process, and then they start you know uh, indulging into it.
Yeah, it gives them a personal touch.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So
All right,
anyone?
any more questions from the audience? So Soumya has mentioned that it was indeed a very enlightening session,
Thank you, Soumya.
and I think it's very new. So I'm sure many of them will go back to jigsawing now. And
I hope
so
so.
could
Very
you
good evening,
mention
ma'am.
how? Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is Professor Amit speaking from Anxiety College. Ma'am, I have a question that
Yes.
you have talked about some mental diseases like dementia and Alzheimer and all, and what are the scope of this jigsaw puzzle to really solve or to just rehabilitate the patients who are suffering from these diseases. I just want to know that how do you compare the importance of this jigsaw puzzle with the spiritual quotient? If such patients or of that older age, if they are practicing spirituality, if the SQ index is higher, then how do you see the impact of that vis-a-vis in comparison to this jigsaw puzzle, role in combating such diseases like Alzheimer and dementia?
I am not very sure if I understand you clearly. So, if there is an onset of dementia or Alzheimer's or any sort of neurocognitive disorder, see, Jigsaw works in the start. So it's largely a part of preventive healthcare. When you do not want to, when you've made up your mind and you do not want to get into any sort of neurocognitive disorders, चाहिए ही नहीं हमें, तब हम ये करते हैं. Yeah, when it is in an early stage where just there is a just onset or just a diagnosable onset of Alzheimer's, that's when you can do these kinds of puzzles. But even in that spectrum, the puzzles are very customized to the individual, where you're triggering happy memories, where you're triggering happy scenes, where you're triggering, for example, if the individual is a big fan of Lata Mangeshkar, so solving a puzzle that has Lata Mangeshkar on it, or playing, or a stage performance that he or she has attended, would really fuel and ignite and fire the neurons in the brain. But after the individual is deep into any sort of neurocognitive disorders, then it becomes very difficult. Then their motor functions are not fine. Then there's only one or two centers of brain that is functioning fine. There are centers that are not functioning fine. For example, if the center of the brain to differentiate between the color is not functioning fine, then it will be an anxiety for the individual trying to solve it. But that is why even in Europe they've started using it, or they've started giving it in the old people home, where before diagnosis, before any clinical appearance of any of these disorders, the individual has started or has picked up solving jigsaw puzzles. Whereas spiritual quotient and relationship of jigsaw puzzle is concerned, I think in my personal experience, there's nothing published on this because the concept is not very new, but it is new to me also. So for last 6 to 8 months, I have been jigsawing every day for at least an hour, and sometimes it goes on for 4 hours and 5 hours also. So what I have realized is it has helped me gravitate, it had helped me relax in my head, and it has helped me to easily sit for a longer period when I'm sitting for meditation and stuff. So it helps me get into the spiritual headspace a little easier than what it used to be before. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you. So, Geetika, there is a query. Any reference where to buy these puzzles? Rajiv Ji is asking. So could you share your
You can buy
website
from my
address?
website. Whether you want to buy from my website or not, that's a different question altogether. But anxious or do not discard it outrightly. So buy a good quality this thing, and if you want to pick this up regularly, I would suggest that you start finding jigsaw partners, so that once you have bought a puzzle, you've solved it, you can probably pass it on to other, and the other can pass their puzzle on to you. So it's a long process, but yeah, of course, I will share the last page of my website once again, so that you can know where to buy the puzzles that we have been designing and we've been working on. In the meantime, if anybody wants to ask any question, they can. Can you see my screen? So this is the website, rapturiousjigsaw.com, and you can just go on the website, and or you have my number. You can just call up and ask for suggestions or connect when you want to connect. And you can ask me or my team to suggest what puzzles you should start with. What we make is wood-based puzzles, basically. So this is not cardboard puzzle. These are wood-based puzzles. So this basically, again, as I mentioned, the texture, the colors, the print quality, the feel when you're taking it in your hand, it's all an experience. It's all a holistic trigger to your brain. So yeah.
Wonderful. I think with that, we have come to the end of the session. I am sure, and we have received a very good feedback in the chat box also, that it was very informative and very interesting indeed. So thank you, Geetika, for accepting our invite and gracing the JMA platform. We look forward to more such collaborative talks and events. We can, as you had already suggested, we can have a jigsaw competition at Jamshedpur. I'm sure we'll have many participants after this session. So once again, thank you all for joining the session. I have shared the QR code to please share your feedback. It helps us to design the future events as well. Thank you, Geetika. Our collaboration association has been, we've been associated for a long time, and I can feel nothing but proud to see you going places. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Asma. Likewise.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Have a good evening, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Thank you, madam.